The storm clouds rolled over the airfield like a warning from the heavens. The wind whipped through the tarmac, carrying with it the scent of jet fuel, steel, and the faint echo of war. The base was on high alert that morning. An unidentified aircraft had breached radar, and the tension in the air was thick enough to taste. Soldiers sprinted across the grounds. Commands echoed through radios. And amid the chaos stood one woman, Captain Amelia Hart, her eyes calm, unblinking, and fixed on the distant horizon where danger waited to reveal itself. She wasn't supposed to be there. Her uniform bore the faded marks of a pilot who had seen too much, who had returned from too many missions the world would never hear about. Her call sign, Raven, was whispered across units as a legend, a ghost in the skies who saved hundreds without ever asking for credit. But this morning none of that mattered. Standing across from her, towering in authority and temper, was Colonel Briggs, a man known for his pride, and for never letting anyone question his command. Captain Hart, "You are hereby ordered to stand down," he barked, his voice slicing through the roaring wind. "This operation is off limits to personnel not cleared for active duty. You're done here." But Amelia didn't move. Her eyes, a haunting shade of gray, flickered with something deeper than defiance. It was purpose. The kind of purpose that came from loss, from love, from knowing that sometimes rules had to be broken to save lives. The colonel's glare hardened. Around them, the squad watched in stunned silence. Nobody defied Briggs. Nobody even breathed wrong when he gave an order. But Amelia simply tightened her gloves, checked the tag hanging from her neck, a simple silver plate engraved with a code that had long been classified, and said nothing. She turned toward the hangar. "Captain Hart." The colonel's voice thundered again. "You're grounded." "That's an order." For a long, painful second, she stopped. The weight of his command pressed against her shoulders. Every instinct in her training told her to obey. But in her mind, she saw the image of a burning helicopter, smoke spiraling into the desert sky. She saw faces she couldn't save, her brother among them, a young medic who had been trapped during a covert operation gone wrong. No one ever knew the full story, but Amelia did. And this mission, this one was connected. She couldn't stand down. Not this time. With deliberate calm, she walked straight toward her fighter jet. The mechanics froze, uncertain whether to stop her. Her boots struck the concrete like thunder, one determined step after another. The colonel followed, fury etched in every line of his face. "You've lost your mind, Captain," he growled, catching up to her at the hangar door. "You're acting without clearance, without authority. You'll lose your career over this." She finally looked at him. Her voice was quiet, not angry, not emotional, just steady. "Sir, with all due respect, there are lives out there waiting for someone who won't stand down." That single sentence hung in the air like a bell tolling through the storm. Moments later, the base shook as her jet roared down the runway, slicing through rain and lightning like a streak of silver vengeance. The colonel stood at the control tower, fists clenched, watching as the woman he just grounded vanished into the clouds. His anger warred with confusion, and beneath it all a flicker of something he couldn't quite name. Admiration. Hours passed. Reports trickled in. The unidentified aircraft was a rogue transport carrying stolen intel and captured soldiers. The enemy was heavily armed, and the situation was deteriorating fast. Command scrambled to assemble a rescue team. But before they could even finalize coordinates, Amelia's signature appeared on the radar, deep behind enemy lines. She was flying alone. The room went silent. Every officer turned to the screen. The colonel's heart pounded as he recognized the maneuver patterns. They weren't standard Air Force formations. They were evasive codes known only to an elite classified unit that no longer existed. Project Valkyrie. Briggs froze. The realization hit him like a shockwave. That code was erased from every record years ago. A special operations team that operated beyond rank and politics, answering only to the highest command. Only one pilot from that project had ever survived. And that pilot's mission code was Raven 09. "Dear God," Briggs whispered, his voice cracking for the first time in years. She wasn't disobeying orders. She was executing one. On the screen, her jet engaged in a dogfight that defied logic. She darted between missiles, countering every attack with precision and grace, her training evident in every turn. The radio crackled with fragments of her transmission, calm, efficient, and unshakable, even as alarms screamed in her cockpit. Package located. Hostiles neutralized. Extraction in progress. Static. Silence. Then, after what felt like eternity, the radar blinked again, her signal returning. She had done it. The captured soldiers were safe. The stolen data recovered, but her jet was critically damaged. Smoke trailed from her wing as she fought to stabilize it, steering back toward friendly airspace. The base prepared for emergency landing. Medics, engineers, and soldiers stood by as her plane touched down, tires screeching, metal grinding against the soaked runway. The moment the canopy opened, she staggered out, uniform scorched, face streaked with soot and rain, but her eyes still steady. Colonel Briggs was there, waiting. He approached slowly, his jaw set, his pride swallowed whole. Without a word, he came to a stop before her. Then, in front of the entire unit, in front of the very soldiers he once led with iron authority, he raised his hand and saluted. The gesture wasn't out of rank. It was out of respect. "Welcome home, Captain," he said softly, his voice breaking. "Or should I say, Commander Raven?" Tears glimmered in Amelia's eyes, though she blinked them away quickly. The mission was never about glory. It was about redemption, for her brother, for every life lost in the silence of classified pages. And for the first time, the storm in her heart began to calm. As the sun broke through the clouds, casting a golden glow across the airfield, she looked around at the faces staring at her. Soldiers who now understood that courage wasn't about following orders, but knowing when to rise above them. She stood tall, saluted back, and whispered, "For those who never made it home." If this story touched your heart, if Amelia's courage reminded you that real heroes often fight battles the world will never see, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps keep their stories alive. Special request to comment. Tell us in the comments what standing your ground means to you. Your words might inspire someone who needs hope today.